Welcome to the video Victims, Villains, and Heroes, the drama triangle and how to escape it. In this video, I'm going to start with explaining what the drama triangle is with my handy dandy whiteboard over here. Then I'm going to share with you how to discover if you're in the drama triangle. I'm going to share with you how to break free of the drama triangle and also what's the opposite of the drama triangle. And then we're going to get into how to heal from it and how to stay out of it in the future. Let's go. So first, I want to get into what is the drama triangle. You can see I have a lovely triangle drawn behind me. The drama triangle is essentially a useful tool in helping you to resolve conflicts and get out of unhealthy relationship dynamics by taking responsibility for yourself. Now, before I dive into this, I want to share a little bit about where I've learned this. Initially, the drama triangle was developed by a man named Kramer many years ago, even decades ago. But where I learned about it was from one of his students named Lynn Forrest. She has a book called Beyond Victim Consciousness. She has several courses and books, and she's fantastic. She doesn't even know who I am, but I hope maybe one day she sees this video and knows that she was a real inspiration for me. The idea behind the victim triangle is that it's the three faces of victimhood. It might seem like there are three roles, but actually it's all back to one core role, which is victim. Now, I put the victim down here because in the victim triangle, in the drama triangle, there are two other roles that seem like they are above the victim. But ultimately, everybody falls down into this role, which is why this is called the three faces of victim consciousness. So you've got the victim, you've got the villain, and you've got the hero. By the way, this is really only relevant to being in a relationship dynamic that is characterized by a lot of conflict, resentment, blame, shame, and complaint. This isn't relevant to an actual crime where there is actually a villain and there's actually a victim. Like somebody shoots somebody, this does not actually apply. I feel the need to say that disclaimer because this is really about how we approach relationships and conflicts in an unhealthy way in life. So in the victim triad or in the drama triangle, you've got this person who plays the role of the victim. Oh, poor me, I don't have power, I can't, you did this to me, right? There's a blame attached to the villain. The villain is playing the role of the villain, is acting upon the victim, doing something to the victim. So what this might sound like from the victim perspective is you blanked me, you hurt me, you made me feel bad, you did this to me. The essential characteristic of the victim is lack of power, lack of agency. Now the villain is the perpetrator. The villain gets blamed for the bad things that the victim feels. And then, of course, we've got over here the hero, which is the savior, right? So the hero swoops in and saves the day. Now, it might seem like this is, a victim, poor person, I feel sorry for this person. The villain, it could seem like this is the bad person, and the hero is like the good person. But do not get seduced by that. Every single role on here is a victim role. Every single role on here is not an empowered role, and I'll tell you why. Because everyone eventually falls down here. The victim says to the villain, you did this to me, and the villain gets upset and turns it right back on the villain, boom, and they swap roles, right? Well, let's pretend, for example, you're a coach or you're a consultant and you have a client that hasn't paid you, right? So initially the client came to you, very likely, and was struggling. And you said, hey, I'll be the hero, I'll save you. But then you neglected to do your job perfectly, so now you're the villain and the victim doesn't want to pay you. So now the victim becomes the villain and you're the victim, right? So this is how the hero, victim, villain triad works. You can never win. You're always playing some role. You're always swapping roles, moving around. And this plays out a lot in family dynamics, in client relationships, in friendships, all the time. So the next question you want to ask is, how do you know if you're in the victim triangle? How do you know if you're in the drama triangle? Well, you know by how you feel, generally. If you're feeling angry and resentful, if you're feeling sad and depressed, if you're feeling powerless, if you're feeling unappreciated, like nobody ever understands how hard you work and how much you do, if you're give, then chances are you're somewhere on this triangle. If there's a pattern of ongoing argument about the same things over and over, if there's a pattern of disagreement that cannot be resolved, chances are you're playing on the drama triangle. And if you find yourself always blaming and putting the finger outward at someone else, chances are it's time to turn that finger inward and look in the mirror. And that really is how to break free of the drama triangle. The way to break free is to turn the focus back on yourself and examine your role. How am I participating in this? How am I facilitating this? So here's a couple things to look at. According to Lynn Forrest, most of us enter the triangle in one preferred role. Now, if you're a coach, a consultant, a speaker, an expert, then most likely the role that you like to enter on is this one. We tend to be people that want to come in and save the day. Perhaps as little kids, we felt unappreciated, unloved, unworthy, whatever it is, we want to be taken seriously. We want people to love and respect us. So we come in to help. And now the problem with that is that very often when we're in the drama triangle and we come in as the hero, we give, we try to save the day, but we're not actually empowering people to rise into their own power. So that's the problem with being the savior. Now, maybe you enter the triangle as a victim. Nothing ever works out for me. It never goes my way. I'm so unlucky. Of course it worked out badly because that's how it always works. That's classic victim narrative. And if you're entering here as the villain, and this is the hardest one for people to get because nobody wants to be the villain. People don't mind being called a savior. People usually don't recognize being a victim, but being a villain is something people actively resist and don't want to be associated with. The villain is usually angry. The villain is blaming, is shaming other people. While the victim is like, poor me, the villain is like, you did this, it's your fault. And so most people avoid this role. So the way to break free is to recognize the role that you like to play the most and to recognize when you're in the victim triangle. And here's the thing about it. Once you start doing this, once you start examining, like, am I playing the hero right now? Am I blaming, shaming? Am I giving away my power? Once you start to become aware of that, you can see how you do it most likely several times a day. So now, what is the opposite of the victim triangle? Well, the opposite is something called the empowerment dynamic. And in the empowerment dynamic, we transform, we alchemize each of these roles into something positive. So the victim becomes the creator. And the creator says, I can, I will not, right? The creator sets boundaries. The creator sets standards. The creator says, I will do this. I claim this. The creator is someone who has claimed their power. I take my power back. I am responsible for my life. Now, by the way, taking on the role of the creator doesn't mean that you're at fault for something. People sometimes struggle with the distinction between blame and fault and taking responsibility. It may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. Meaning, the circumstances that happen may not be up to you, but the way you show up to those circumstances is. So the victim says, I am the creator of my life. I may not have control over everything that happens to me, but I do have control over how I respond to it. So the creator is empowered and takes responsibility. The more empowered role of the hero is the guide. And I like to use the archetype of Yoda, right? Yoda doesn't do the things for Luke. Yoda inspires and invites Luke to do things for himself. So a true guide is someone who asks powerful questions and who sees the power of the creator and helps them tap into that power. The creator, the guide, doesn't do the thing for him, doesn't swoop in and save the day. Instead, teaches the creator how to be their own hero, how to do things for themselves. And then finally, the empowered version of the villain is the challenger that's providing the obstacle or the thing that that the creator has to face. So the villain, instead of being someone who's acting from blame or shame, can instead be somebody who's acting from, all right, I'm going to help you rise by presenting you with this opportunity to grow and expand. So that's the empowerment dynamic. And the empowerment dynamic is literally the opposite of the victim, hero, villain triad. In a moment, I'm going to share with you how to heal from the triad and also how to prevent yourself from falling back into it. But before I do that, I want to invite you to like my video and subscribe to my channel, maybe even post a comment below to let me know how this is landing for you. So of course, now is the time to ask, well, how do we heal from this? If we've been living in this dynamic for years or even decades, how do you get over it? How do you get past it? How do you let go of it? How do you forgive? Well, the first thing is to always, always, always keep coming back to yourself. And when you do that, I highly encourage you to find or create a process for forgiveness, for forgiving yourself and also for forgiving others. Now, I found a tool a while back, and I'll probably do a video on this next time, called the Radical Forgiveness Worksheet. My coach, Jody Johnson, who I've mentioned to you in the past, introduced me to the forgiveness worksheet years ago, and it's still a tool that I use. It's a way of walking yourself through the steps of healing and letting go of old wounds, old hurts, and old resentments. And then how to stay out of the victim triangle in the future. Well, that's easier said than done, perhaps. At least it has been for me. Step one is to recognize when you're in it. That you can't do anything about it if you don't recognize when you're in it. So that often means slowing down and being really mindful and intentional about how you have conversations, especially conversations where you're disagreeing with someone. My advice is to practice something also pretty radical, which I call radical responsibility. And that means taking 100% responsibility for 100% of your life, 100% of the time. Now, I know that sounds crazy, especially when you know that not everything is up to you. But I found that it's an interesting exercise. It's an interesting practice to always try. And I asked myself this question: if I were able to take 100% responsibility for this situation, what would that look like? I find that it releases some of the charge of it, because it's only a theoretical question. If I were to take responsibility, how would I do that? But it opens the door for me to look at the situation in a brand new way. I hope this video was helpful for you. And if you're looking to build or grow your coaching, speaking, or consulting business in a way that's in alignment with these principles, then I invite you to connect with me. Let's book a time to chat about if and how one of my programs might be able to help you grow. You can find that at superstardiscoverycall.com, or you can click on the link in the description below.